6:51, coming up towards 6:52 in Trinidad and Tobago. Time is running against us this morning because of the late start of our interview with Minister Ayanna Webster-Roy. So let's get right into our discussion now with Darren Lehim, the third Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. Mr. Lehim, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Of course, we're getting your perspective in the context of this protest action by parents of the St. Dominic's RC school, and indeed the inference by the education minister when she was asked about it. She didn't say so specifically in this case, but her comments seem to suggest that what you hear from people is not necessarily the case, and there might be other matters tied into it and so on. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Just give us your perspective.
Pleasant good morning, Fazir, and thanks for having me here this morning. Okay, Fazir, to start with that school, St. Dominic's RC. That school was decanted since in 2016, right? In 2017, February of 2017, the population of the school was split into two. Part of the school was placed in the parish hall and part was placed in the community center. This poses a managerial nightmare for the administration of that school, because to start with, the two locations are not even located on the same street. Right, and the challenges there, you would have issues with washrooms because you have 77 students in a parish hall that they have two washrooms to use, right? You have poor ventilation, you have not enough space for these students to even social distance right now, right? The services at the church, the parish hall, when they are there, when there's a service at the church, the students have to be displaced. They have to be moved out in order to facilitate the service. There's no outdoor space for the students at that parish hall to even facilitate any outdoor activity, right? There's simply not enough space at either location because you have 77 students in the parish hall and 175 students in the community center. Right? So how are you going to facilitate these? And then the administrator has to move between these two buildings in order to manage the school properly.
And right? just in relation to this, as we continue our discussion, is this a completely unique situation from Ttuta's experience and understanding? Is this a worst case scenario compared to what is happening in other school situations?
Actually, Fazir, we have a lot of schools that face the same issue. We have Rosilak Hindu, which had a school that was built under the People's Partnership. It has never been opened. This school has been operating in the community center, which is now becoming an issue with dilapidated conditions there also. And we have a new school built there that they haven't been able to occupy. We have this.
Just pause for a moment. Sorry, Mr. Lehim, because sometimes when I hear things, I just want to check myself to make sure I actually heard what you said. That there's a brand new school that has been built for the Rosilak Hindu school students, and up to now it hasn't been opened as yet.
Up to now it has not been opened.
I just wanted to establish that.
Yeah,
Thanks. Yeah. We'll continue.
We have the Santa Flora Government Primary School. They have been decanted to the beach camp facility in Palo Seco with approximately 250 students. We have the Sangre Chiquito Presbyterian School in Sangre Grande, where the school has been split into two. Some of the students are at a community center, while some at the Grosvenor Presbyterian School. There's the Princestown Presbyterian 1 and 2, where they have to be on a shift system in order to facilitate these two schools at one location. So these are issues that have been going on for a while now. This school that we're talking about, St. Dominic's RC, it's unfortunate that this was the school where one of the students would have recently been the victim of a murder. So that school is faced with a lot of issues, having to deal with the loss of its colleague, right? And also having to feel as though they are being left out, they are being neglected by the Ministry of Education. Because you have the Minister of Education visiting the Education District of St. Patrick, under which the school would fall, right? And did not have the courtesy to pay a visit to this school, knowing fully well what the school is going through, having to deal with the trauma of losing their colleague through a violent fit, right? And you're in the area, visit the school, listen to their concerns, see how you can lend support to these students and these teachers. But no, you are visiting schools in the area that you feel are I have to say, are better off than these students. You're looking to visit these schools for popularity, for media coverage, to make it. And when the Prime Minister is visiting these schools, the schools tend to put their best out there. They fix up the school looking nice and dandy. So when the minister visits, it looks as though these schools have no issues.
And therefore, Mr. Lihim, and I'm sorry that we've compacted your time a little bit because of the late start with our interview with the minister earlier in the hour. What is your view on this situation as a representative of Ttuta? Because we understand that when it comes to systems and structures and governance, you can't say, I want this now, and you get it now, because there's a process. You want to ensure that things are done properly. You can't just do it vai. But are you... what is Ttuta's perspective as far as response to these situations, not just the St. Dominic school, but the others, the Rusalak Hindu and so on that you mentioned? Why does this continue to happen?
Honestly, Fazir, I think the Ministry of Education, the minister, they don't give these schools the priority that they need. You are talking about schools that are decanted since 2015. I remember Princestown Presbyterian since in 2015, because before I went into Ttuta, I was the chairman of that area. And that's when these schools were decanted and moved to Princestown Presbyterian too, to share building. And you're talking about almost 5, 6, 7 years, and nobody pays attention to these schools and try to sort the issues out that which they are affected with.
But Mr. Lihim, how does a human being, be it whether a minister, a permsec, a school supervisor, a department head, whatever, how does he or she just stand by knowing that you have 20 children in a line going to use a toilet, or in a place where there's pigeon droppings on them, or there's a brand new school right across the fence but it's not opening for whatever reason? How do people do that?
Fazir, it amazes me, because I mean, this is your portfolio. This is what you're responsible for. And you can't even pay attention to these schools to ensure that these children, you have brought children back into the physical space, the face-to-face classrooms. And this is what they are faced with. And over the years, and I remember we having this discussion on the last interview we had, that no attention was paid to these schools whilst we were in the pandemic mode. Nothing was done. No school repairs were done. You waited until school was about to open a week before in order to visit schools and have contractors come and look at work and bid for it. So no attention. It clearly shows that you are not concerned. You are not concerned about these students and their education, and you go and put a media release and say, you reminded students yesterday of the significance of their educational pursuits and extended personal wishes to their success. How could you have success in these schools when you have these children having to operate under these conditions?
Mr. Lihim, time is just about running out on us, because we're right up to 7 o'clock at this time, and we have our fertility step-by-step segment coming up at the start of the second hour. But just as a final perspective, because we sought you out specifically in relation to the St. Dominic's RC situation. But what is your overview on this? Because I mean, Ttuta has been around for a long time. Is it your job to advocate for these things?
Yes.
Do you have the ear of the education minister?
Yes, our job is to represent our teachers out there, our students who are involved in these classrooms. Our job is to ensure that they have the right facility and the right resources in order to have a better education. We will continue to do that job that we have been mandated to do, to ensure that you have good working conditions in these schools and good structures in place so that education can take place in these schools. And we will continue to fight for that.
Mr. Darren Lihim, third Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. We thank you very much indeed, sir, for taking the time to speak to us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me here, Fazil.
You're more than welcome. 1 minute after 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago. And this is what the frustrating thing is all about. When on an official level you hear one thing, when at the other level you hear something totally different, somebody has to be lying. Is Darren Lihim lying? Is the ministry lying? Because somebody had to be lying. Based on the information that is there, somebody has to be lying. Two people can't be speaking at opposite ends, and both of them speaking the truth at the same time. But we see, we seem very, very comfortable with that as a society, because it ain't affecting none of us. even if maybe a second cousin, twice removed child being abused right now. We'll be right back.